we had seeing issues, we had hearing issues. I especially had hearing issues. I could be just getting old though. It's possible. How you doing, buddy?
So far, so good, man. How's everything going up in Canada?
Day 2 of me being back in Calgary, Alberta. It's cloudy out here, possibly rain a little bit later on, but it's a client day too. I'm working with a client this morning, and I'm kind of excited about that.
Is Calgary more of an LA or New York or maybe an Austin?
Probably in Austin.
Oh, wow. Okay. You learn something.
Probably in Austin. LA is an weird little animal. When I was there, it's LA. No, so how do I put LA? LA is actually, in my opinion, it's really a bunch of little towns with a
Yeah,
big giant ass road that links them all together.
pretty
Depending on
much.
what part, depending on which part of LA you're in a different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my LA experience. Hello, Mr. Dog.
That's my
I
dog.
I
That's the
I
trash
hear.
guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how loud it is over there, but he's really loud right now.
Oh, I can hear him, so I know he's loud. So yeah. But when I was in LA, I chose to fly there, and I made the mistake of it'd be kind of cool to take Greyhound from LA to Phoenix. Right? I figured I'd fly LA. I had also the option of going to Denver. I should have gone to Denver. I really should have gone to Denver, but I didn't. And I got to see some of the more colorful sides about Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Uh, right. Also, regardless of that, it's expensive no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. Even when LA's traffic isn't good, it's bad. Is good. It's bad. I should say. It doesn't. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So no, Calgary is not bad. As far as New York goes, well, I haven't been in New York. I don't. The thing about New York, from everybody's telling me, people have the pizzazz to tell each other off. Wait a minute, go back into their cars, and then resume their business once they've done finished telling each other off. Calgary doesn't quite have that going for it, so I'm gonna say it's probably more like Austin. Like just by default there, like those
Yeah.
based on those choices, it's by default. It's closer to Phoenix. It's actually closer to Phoenix, to be perfectly
Gotcha.
honest. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like Austin and Phoenix aren't that far apart.
I've never been to Phoenix, but I've been to Austin on more than a couple of occasions, seeing as how I'm down here in Texas. I've been to LA once for work, so it was a radio deal, and we were in the Hollywood part of LA, so I didn't really get much of a chance to go out to the different parts of town. But I've been to New York a couple of times. Really like the vibe in New York. This was all, of course, pre-COVID. Um, but went as a kid and then went some years ago with my family, and we like it. I mean, I don't know how it is now, but I think they're still living as if it's 2020 with regards to to COVID and stuff. But
Mm,
yeah,
well,
I know
well,
everyone's got their own opinion about how to live in a pandemic, but
I mean, hell, this is our show. This is our conversation. We can talk about whatever we want. I don't give a fuck. Like, no, like truthfully, I've hit that point in my life where I just COVID taught me a lot of things. And one of the biggest things it kind of taught me was that what, you got to be okay with where you stand,
yeah,
right? Whatever that looks like, whatever that vibe feels like, you got to be okay with where you stand. My stance is really this, and COVID is no different than any other disease out there,
hmm
right?
hmm
And at some point now, like I said, now I'll be blunt. I'm not that crazy about the vaccine. I'm just not. Everything I'm reading and studying about it makes me go, not so much. But and I'm being blunt, right? I don't. It's just
yeah,
from what I've seen and read, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And I'm in Canada, and Canada is very much still kind of in that it's 2020 kind of phase.
yeah.
But regardless of that, like this is my opinion. We're not going to come out of this life alive. I mean, we're not walking away
Nobody
from
has an
this.
escape hatch. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no escape hatch. Everybody is going to eventually just go. So this idea that you let this freeze you forever or live a certain way forever, in my opinion, silly. Now that doesn't mean that it's not serious. It doesn't mean that there's a possibility, but I don't see it any more or less than anything else out there. I could get cancer tomorrow. I can get heart disease tomorrow. I can get whooping cough tomorrow. I can get tuberculosis tomorrow. I could
You can
get
get hit by somebody texting and driving on your way home today.
exactly. So there
Yeah.
comes there comes a point like life is inherently a risk. That's basically what it is, right? Life is inherently a risk. No matter whether you get the vax or you don't, you can still get COVID. Whether you get the vax or don't, you can be hospitalized. Whether you get the vax or don't, you can still die from the damn thing. So the way I see it is choose how you want to live your life. Don't and accept the fact that, you know, you got like it's about doing what you feel the best you can and the risk you're willing to take. And that's it. There's nothing else really to discuss
Yeah.
on that, right?
One, I think, and kind of going back to like how it affects guys like you and me who live in the creative world. It helps you, when you're working um, with 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 strict boundaries that are external to our living situation. It forces us to be even more creative because it's like, all right, so society is shutting down and we believe what we want to, we believe what we believe and we think how we think. Yet there are external forces that are, and they've got the monopoly on violence, and they can throw us in a cage and they can point guns at us. So how are we going to interact with these people, and how can we still earn a check and support ourselves and the people around us? So it's if anything, it's forced us to be a little more creative in how we execute what we do.
Well, we're more in demand now. I mean, that's
Yeah.
part of it too. We're more in demand now. But here's the okay. So this was my second apocalypse. I had a personal one in my mid 20s. So it also I didn't get rattled the same way either because it's like, well, I've kind of seen my own brush with mortality. I know I ain't walking out of this alive. It's not gonna scare me the same way. It's just not.
Yeah.
And if anything, good, bad, or indifferent, it's actually made me more defiant, not less defiant about how things are. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it damn well, please. I just realized that like for me it was the reminder that life is constantly it's short. You got like you're here and then one day you're not, and that's it. That's all there is to it. And again, so it didn't rattle me the same way either because how could it? I've already seen the Reaper. So I'm not gonna be like it could get me, it could do this, it could whatever. It's gonna get me, it can do this or whatever. And same with authority, same with laws, like, okay, I can't travel. I can't travel as easily, but I have this wonderful little podcast here where I get to talk to people like you and people reach out and people listen. My audience has climbed tremendously in the last little bit as a result of this time, and I'm grateful for it. But I'm also like, like again, it's just looking at the whole thing. It's like, okay, I'm more in demand, so my job now is to get myself out there as much as possible.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Oh man. So what kind of work you got on tap today? As I understand, yesterday you were telling me about a novella. You were telling me about a book that you're writing. You're working on the two kind of simultaneously, but then today's a client day because you do freelance work. So what's on tap?
I'm interviewing a client in about 1 hour and 50 minutes from now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the interview, and I'm going to take the clips. I'm going to get some images from them too, and I'm going to start making commercials for them. One of the things authors suck at is promoting their own work because you don't like talking about it. It's like, why is your work awesome and made of cheese? And you're like, I don't know. And you get really shy and awkward because like I feel like
Yeah.
a tool talking about my shit. I have a big mouth, Freddie. I have a really big mouth. I'm good at it. I can build you up for you. I can make content for you that will actually go not just on your website, but any other of these platforms out there. I can make video. I can make audio. Like I said, I can do all that stuff. So that's my service. So today we're going to do an interview, like a little bit more focused than this, but not by much. right? It's still going to be a casual conversation, but it's going to be a little bit more dedicated to a couple things I want to build, which is her and her recent release. And we're just going to build them both. We're going to talk how much content she wants going to be video. I figure it's going to be about 16 pieces of video altogether, probably about 7 to 9 other pieces, including some audio work and some written work and maybe some images as well. And then just deliver that over the next week and then get paid the other half of my thing. It's a pretty big deal. It's like this one client by itself is nearly $1,000. So for me in Canada, so yeah, that's a pretty cool freelance gig right off the bat. First major customer on this too.
And when you land one of those, it's such a shot in the arm. It's like that. It's the ultimate adrenaline shot because you're like, huh, I did that. It's like
Yeah,
4 figures. I can, this is what I am truly capable of. And now let's see how much more I can do. Let's see how many more of these clients I can get.
yeah. Well, if I get to the point where I can get like 2 or 3 of these a month, I'm good.
It's a real
Like,
living, man.
yeah, no, I'm good, right? And that's it. That's it, right? That's how close I am. Like that's literally how close I am. I mean, I'm looking for a part-time gig, like part-time job somewhere. But like I said, that's where I'm at. I'm at a part-time job phase. I don't need a full-time job, right? So that's a really good spot to be in.
Mhm.
It's not quite where I want to be yet, but like I said, and if I do this really well, I know more clients will come because I know this too as authors. Most again, you hate building your advertising, so get somebody else to do it for you that's actually serious about it, and you don't have to worry. You just have to advertise it yourself. Because that's the one thing I won't do is I won't run your social media platforms or campaigns. That's not enough money. I equate that to do you remember those old 1-900 numbers back in like the late 90s or
Yeah.
so when you hire an advertising agency to run all your platforms, that's what you've done. You've hired a 1-900 number to do the work for you. Oh, baby, he's so exciting. Just go watch our stuff. Like, no, you don't, right? And you're paying them to be enthusiastic for you. And it's a
Yeah.
lot of work. It's a lot of work too. It really is. So building your content so you can advertise. That I'll do for you. I'll give you that campaign. I'll let you decide where you want to put it, how you want to put it, where we're gonna go, what we're gonna do. All right, and we're just gonna and build from there.
But you don't plan out. So you provide the ammo, and it's
Yeah,
up to the author to figure out when she's going to load the gun and then where she's going to shoot it,
to
so
the
to speak.
point. To the point, but I also have my platforms, and I would be using them as well. That's the other aspect of it. My podcast broke 2,000 downloads in a week about 4 weeks ago, right?
Nice.
Yeah, it's not bad, right? So now it's kind of done the crash and burn because of the Easter holiday. So now it's starting to go slowly creeping back up again.
Hmm.
That's where we're at. So assuming I keep producing content the way I'm producing content, within another couple of weeks I'll be back to my normal numbers, and after that I'll be climbing them again. And so it's that roller coaster, but you have a platform. I have a platform where I have an audience, and so anyone that does this kind of thing gets access to that as well. Puts that kind of money in, right? That's part of the deal. Is like you have a platform that people do listen to on a regular basis. I regularly get 100 download days, not weeks, but days.
Hmm.
So you got an audience in Canada, United States that listens. So it works out, right? And so a listening audience, with a good enough pitch and stuff. I mean, that's also part of my job too. And I get to learn ad copy, sales, and I can carry that into other paying work because ad copy is storytelling too.
Yeah, it is. It's telling the story of a product or service, and I think that people really underestimate the power of being able to write, not just write a good story or a great story, but just being able to write. Period. Because I think even the most mediocre and average, below average, or slightly above average writer can really break out and make some serious bank in 2022. Because I think that's really what marketing is gravitating toward. I have a guest on my podcast who talks about the partnership economy, and there's a stat in there and I won't even begin to try and remember the percentage, but it's a large percentage of people who are millennial age who don't trust advertising. And so what you're doing is what the world is gravitating more toward are micro influencers, and that will be people with followings between 10,000 and 1 million, which is a pretty big chasm. But it's not like, the 1 million is still relatively small when you compare to a Beyonce or a Taylor Swift or one of the Iron Chefs on Food Network with millions and millions and millions of followers. So they're more likely to trust somebody like us to tell their story, or to say, hey, you know what? This guy Josh is working on a badass novella, and you should get it. If you like
Yeah.
novellas, you're trying to get your kid to read, here's something I think you'll like. And they're like, oh, yeah, Freddie said that. Let me go and get it.
Well, I also think marketing's evolved. Like it's not like we're talking about micro evolution. The fact of the matter is the best form of advertisement, like this kind of show, is a great form of advertisement because okay, we get to highlight what you do. Like for example, you are interviewing me more than I'm interviewing you right now, right? And that's because it's partly what you do on your show, what you do, and I'm letting you do it because this is what you're comfortable doing, right? All right, because that's your thing. But it highlights a particular skill set that you want to highlight, right, on this show, right? That tells me more about you, both good, like some things and other things, like also you're a little shy, and I figured that out just listening to this conversation about 15 minutes in. Ah,
Uh-oh, he's got to make that cheddar, baby. Get the
yeah,
phone,
yeah.
get the phone, get the phone.
No,
Go,
no,
go,
no,
go.
no,
Go
no,
on.
no, 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 no. It's not
Come
important.
on, man.
It's not. No, it's not important. It's not important.
It's not important.
Well, no, it's not important. If it's important, they'll call back later. Right? That's how I look at
My
it.
fifth ex-wife. She wants to get the
Yeah.
money check.
Nah. What's the tax right? I don't know what you're talking about, buddy. No. What you get? But no. It's one of those situations where you just realize, like that's the best form of advertising is that human connection. It's storytelling. It just now what we're looking at is you don't want this. You don't necessarily want an obnoxious like campaign. You want a story that entertains people, or a story that's really personal and authentic. So that kind of advertising is doing very well. The traditional, how do I put this? These big giant campaign ad forms of advertising, they're not doing so hot because it doesn't strike a chord the same way because we've seen this shit for 40 years, maybe. Doesn't
Yeah.
So we've become kind of desensitized to that whole song and dance spiel, right? It just doesn't feel real, and that kills that whole part of the business. It's nice. I mean, it looks impressive and it's cool to have those um, presence, but at the same time, it's not something most people can relate to anymore. You want to have the American dream, doesn't really exist.
That is true, baby.
Yeah.
Well, and kind of building off of that, I think that when people think of success, people think of the most extreme versions of it, whether you're talking sports or pop culture or entrepreneurship or business. Everyone looks to, the Elons and the Warren Buffetts and the Taylor Swifts and, the Iron Chef Bobby Flays, but they're not realizing that, these are outliers. And you know what, that life really, and you're talking to somebody who's not a millionaire, and probably, I mean, I don't want to throw it out there that I'll never be one, but I mean, what's the likelihood that one of us really actually achieves that kind of success? Highly unlikely. But it's like, be careful what you wish for, because that's a whole other level of insanity that you have to deal with. And when you're talking about scaling your business, whether it's writing or service or manufacturing or whatnot, um, careful what you wish for, man. You can find success and you can still have that quote unquote balance of, being able to being able to see your family and being able to hang out with your friends, being able to get a decent night's rest, which is not underrated and very much pivotal and very much important to being able to live a healthy life. So you can have that, but on a smaller scale. It doesn't have to be $1 million or $3 million a year in revenue or higher. It could be 150, 200, 400,000, which would it's not $1 million, but shit, I'll take 400 G's in a year. I'm
Ha.
not gonna.
See,
That'll take me a long way, baby.
see, I actually think being a million, like, okay, so we look at like Taylor Swift, Warren Buffett, and those people. They're like, it's not that they're millionaires; it's that they make hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
They scaled to such a degree that, like, it's a combination of that unexpected hit. Like, no one could have predicted Taylor Swift's. She's good. Like, she's really, really good. And she's worked her ass off. I don't think people realize how much work that actually takes.
Right.
But at the same time, you cannot predict the scale that high. There's no way to actually do that.
And what are the
So,
internal costs to that at a young
oh yeah,
age?
oh yeah, no, she can't take a shit in peace. Like, seriously, she can't go to a
no doubt.
Yeah, she can't take a shit in peace.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fame has one use, just one. It makes you more money. That's it. It comes with a big. I remember when she was alive, Carrie Fisher,
Okay.
right? She was at an expo and she was surrounded by security. And the reason why she was surrounded by security was because following her were a whole bunch of fans just following her. Couldn't talk to her, couldn't reach, but they were following her. And I was looking at that. It was like, that is shit. You're forced to live in a bubble. Like, that's just it. Like, you're forced to live in a fucking bubble. And you're like, yikes. And she's made a fuck ton of money, but I'm almost like, I am willing to bet with her. Sometimes she probably wishes she never had done Star Wars, just because, holy shit, all the shit she missed out on because of that bubble she lives in.
And all those kids that were watching her in the bikini with Jabba the Hutt, they're now 40-something-year-old pervs that creep, stalking her at a comic convention.
It wasn't just guys, man. It was girls too. Like, I watched that. Like, she was getting stalked, and it was just like, and that's why she has the security. That's why William Shatner, if you ever see him in public, sometimes he's an asshole, right? Because he's protecting himself, because he's got this big bubble, right? And he's like, I don't want to be fucking bothered with this crap, right? And he figured out, well, I'll get some peace and quiet if I'm a dick. That's probably, like, I'm almost willing to bet that's the reason why he is such a dick sometimes when you see him. It's just like, you watch him and you're like, why are you this way? And you're like, oh, this repels the bubble, at least a little bit, right? And so, like, I truly think it's possible for a writer to make I think it's possible to be a millionaire as a writer. I don't actually think it's outside the realm of possibility. I just think I think what writers fail to realize is you don't want to be Stephen King. You don't necessarily want to be J.K. Rowling.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be it's okay being a tier or two below those people, right? I mean, their paycheck is nice, but it does come with, like, they worked hard for it, but two, it does come with a bit of there's a price tag for this shit, and a lot of people don't think about the price tag. I interview metal bands on my show, and one of the bands I interviewed is from Spain. They're like, yeah, we know we probably could make a full-time living as a musician, but the work that goes into that, it's like, we just don't want to do it. That's honest. I can respect that. Like, sometimes it's okay to do things just for the sake of doing them too, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and going to the metal bands, I mean, shit, dude. Imagine the difference in setup between playing at a bar or a lounge and then finding success and realizing, hey, I can open up for, I don't know, let me throw a band out there. I can open up for Megadeth. And we're gonna do now we're not just in Spain, but we're gonna go play Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
Dude, imagine the difference. And then you're having to hire people and you're having to overlook and make sure they don't fuck things up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's work, and that's not including the rehearsal, the practice, the press, the constant. You're constantly going, right?
That's why the 1%'s the 1%, dude.
Yeah,
because they're willing to bust their ass, and and they're willing to, I guess, not so much, I shouldn't say bust their ass, because I mean, you and I are, in the short amount of time that I've gotten to know you, I know you bust your ass and I bust my ass, and so it's not saying that we don't bust our. They're willing to kind of, I guess, take it to the next level when you're talking about Elon Musk, sleeping at Tesla HQ, or there's some billionaires who I've listened to where they openly brag about not really having kids, and they work 96-hour weeks, and that is fantastic for them. That's the life they chose to live, and power to them. Not me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. You want a balanced life. Like, I'm
Yeah.
okay. Like, I think it's possible for me based on just, again, and this might sound crazy to some people listening to this. I think it's very possible for me to make, like, I haven't hit living status yet, but again, a lot of people I know that haven't hit what I've hit making it as a freelancer,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people haven't, and I know how to do it. I could probably get it, and like, well, I'd be happy in the short term to triple my income. That's not impossible to do, but eventually, like, there's a number of mountain ahead I'd like to get to, and I'd be very happy if that's where I get to, right? And if I get there, now maybe I'll want more, but maybe I'll be like, you know what? Maybe I'll want a wife and kids. I may want to, like, travel a little bit, like, live a little bit more of a life. Get to that point where I can enjoy it a little bit without losing that momentum too much, and because I think that's part of. I mean, again, what's the point of busting your ass if you can't enjoy it just a little bit? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's how I see it. Like, I don't necessarily, like I said, everybody's got to have their own goals of what that looks like. Um, but like I said, I don't want to work for somebody for a living anymore. I mean, that's an honest admission on my part, right? So, and the reason why is because what I want to do is I want to use my time to do the things I enjoy or love to do, and that's including with being with people I love. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, about the novella that you're
Mhm.
working on, I'm not sure. I guess it maybe that was when we got the communication barrier was kind of impeding on our conversation. So when we talked in the previous interview, you were telling me about the novella. You've got it written, and then now you're drawing it out. So do you, when you're working on something like this, you obviously had the story plotted and written out, and you write longhand your manuscript. So, are you drawing your illustrations for this graphic novel? Are you drawing those out by hand, or are you using some sort of uh,
I'm drawing them by hand for now. For this particular story, it actually
yeah,
works better, because again, he's a beginning artist. He's not supposed, like, it's like the best way to make it look like it's not professional is don't use these programs the same way, right? Now maybe I in a little bit I get like I get a tablet somewhere down the road and I polish it up slightly, but
mhm.
the idea that they look rough, the idea that they don't look complete, the idea that they look like a still image instead of an actual just an image, right? That's it's a different feeling than someone that's doing um, a comic page with a blue screen, like the blue little panels, so you can put it in, so you can put your layers in a little bit better and deeper and stuff,
Mhm.
right? Make it so it's not so computer comfortable, which also fits the story I'm telling well as well. You know what I mean? So it's a different feeling than something that's a little polished. It feels like it doesn't quite belong in the same world as the book. That's part of the story too. It feels different. It's not the same, and it shouldn't be the same, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, when you deal with visual stuff, when you deal with visual, okay, I have, like, even this podcast. This podcast originally was an audio only show, now it's a visual. So I have people come on the show and draw with me sometimes. Why? Because it's a visual show now. It adds to the visual experience of how I
Mm.
do a show. I might play Magic the Gathering online against somebody on the show. Why? I can do that. It's a visual representation, a visual place to go and do something, right? That's the difference. It's not like this magical it's not a magic it's not magical to think about it in terms of, you know, this can be different or this can be, no, like you have a storytelling aspect when you have a visual component. And so if you have a visual component, you got to think of the best way to do the visual, right? Do I want it polished? Do I want it rougher? Do I want it to feel like a 3D adventure? Do I want, and then there's art. That's not even going into art styles or art composition or anything like that. But that whole tone you set dictates the kind of story this is, if that makes sense.
Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
A ton of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you ever decide to do a visual thing yourself, I don't know, do you have any movie aspirations?
You know, I have episode 1 of what would be a series adaptation of my first novel that I wrote, but it's a rough draft, and it's way different than the beginning of the first novel. But you know, it'd be cool. But I wrote it just to see, and I don't know that I'll ever pitch it or whatnot. I think that's kind of where we indie writers kind of have we're still it's an uphill battle for us because the streaming platforms will not even consider you if you don't have representation by an agent. And by default, if you seek representation by an agent, then that automatically means you're looking to get traditionally published. And I'm at a point where i don't I don't like rejection. I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I want to do the things that I want to do because I'm quite aware that I might only have 10 more years on this planet. I might only have 20. I might have 30. Shit, if I'm lucky, 40. I don't think I'm living till I'm 87, but
Who
um,
knows?
uh,
Who
and, and,
knows?
and I've done the math. I've averaged out the because I've lost sadly all 4 of my grandparents, so I've averaged out the death. I'm in the mid 70s. If we're going by that, 85 would be the oldest age, and late 60s if we're going by the youngest age. So, um,
So my
so
grand I'm mid 80s at least then. Mid 80s
yeah,
at least.
yeah.
So,
So, and you're 40. So dude, we're at halftime, man.
mhm.
And how are we going to play the second half of our lives? Do we want to be beholden to some outside force telling us nope, and they're holding the thumb down on the scale of our lives? Hell fuck no. We want to do the things on our own terms. And then if something goes awry, then we learn. Like, all right, well, you know what? That didn't work out. How are we going to make this better the next time around? And then we just keep doing and we keep doing. And I think that's really the stuff of life. And I think that's why I feel like creators and inventors and entrepreneurs, we are in a unique position. We're in a better position to live more fulfilling lives. Maybe not so much monetarily or sanity wise. Who knows? But we're better positioned to live a more full life than somebody who's just working for the man, working for the weekend, working that 9 to 5.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of a gentle pushback, a gentle one,
Okay.
because the thing is, those television deals no longer require agent representation anymore.
No way. Okay, so that must just be Netflix and Hulu.
No, even Netflix will. No, 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 no. Here's how this works. The real way this works. Yes, agents can help you get those doors in. Do you know what else
Huh.
will get those doors in?
Sales.
Mm-hmm.
Or the right person.
No, no, no. Sales. So Kickstarter. Now everybody talks about the Brandon Sanderson effect. There's
Mm-hmm.
something else that's been quietly going on is that a lot of television stuff is picking up properties from Kickstarter. Because here's the thing about Kickstarter, okay? You can legitimately see the audience and the willingness to invest in a product based on how Kickstarter campaigns go. So if your Kickstarter campaign has enough backers that are supporting the show and it's scaled to a certain point, they will come to you that way too.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's one of those like I'm probably publishing my next 3 books through Kickstarter because it's a community that writers are not tapping into that they should. One of my not too long ago guests, actually, I almost want to kick him in the head, almost, because he's actually scaling down his Kickstarter goals each and every time when he should be scaling up.
Ooh, yeah.
That right. He should be scaling up, not down. It's something I don't fully understand with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he realizes how much of a gold mine he potentially has. Right? He had a really high goal for his first one. He's been lowering it every time. And I'm like, why are you doing it like that? Why not just raise it? Because you have the track record now. So the track record's there. You can actually scale up, and you should, and not scale down. Don't be shy, be bold, right? And yeah, just that, like, I looked at that and just said, okay, my first goal is going to be something like $3,000 because it's my first book. But my goal is to get those $20,000, $30,000 campaigns because they're not impossible, right?
Okay, so let me ask you this. So when you say your goal is 3,000, are you saying 3,000 so that you can go to so that you can hire a cover editor and you can cover the costs of the book? Because as you know, as an indie author, it costs real money. I think what people don't understand is that as an indie author, we foot the bill for everything. We pay for the developmental editor, the formatting, the copy editor, the proofreader, the cover art, all that stuff, the PR work, the advertising, if we choose to advertise traditionally. So the $3,000 goal that you have is what you want to be able to cover your expenses.
A chunk of my expenses, not all of them. My goal for the first campaign is to establish myself in the community. Because the important thing, the first time, prove you can get the project out there. That's super important because once you've done that, then you can go for the real money. Because it's like anything else. The first time you put your foot in the pool, people are going to be like, I don't know if this guy's going to do it. Right? Well, then you do it. Then you go for the real goal. Yeah. I have my novel I told you about last time with the Russian assassin / Knights of the Round. I want to do a Darwin Cook-esque Parker style novel. I don't know if you've ever seen those. They're beautiful, right? They're just beautiful books. I want to do that. I want to do that on a Kickstarter. That's going to cost me, and I already done the math on this. It's going to cost me about $6,000 to pull that off properly, right? So I want to do a $6,000 campaign, right? Just to break even. That one's going to be the first one's going to be the break even, right? Now, when I do my second and my third and my fourth, that's when I'm going to start making money on this. But I mean, the big thing about an indie too is like the first time you do an indie book, you almost should expect a loss the first time because you're building yourself up and you're establishing yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
First 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah. But the idea is, but again, it's like anything else. The real money in publishing is your backlist. It's not the book you're doing in front of you. It's all the books behind you. Because it's like, this is how this works. It's like, okay, this book's cool. Does this guy do anything else? Holy shit, he does. Let's take a look at that. And all of a sudden they just buy everything. It happens. Same with my podcast. I mean, that's you have a backlist. People look at your backlist and just constantly look over and over and over and over and over and over again about your backlist. It's not
there's a term. Yeah, there's a term that I learned called the Content Waterfall, and it's beautiful because that's essentially what it is. Whether it's the Just Joshing podcast, someone hears an interview that you do next week or maybe this one, and they're like, wow, never heard of this guy, but I really like him. Holy shit, Just Joshing has 800 episodes? I guess I'm ignoring the entire world for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, it happens. Yep. Like it happens. That's a big part of this whole business. It's not about just your front, but it's not about your front. It's about your back. Kickstarter's the same way, right? It's not just your first. It's the first campaign is the one where you're going to probably lose your ass, a little bit. You're going to be foot eating that a little bit. But your second, third, fourth, there are people who do six-figure campaigns, right? There comes a point when you get to a certain point on this, you're making money. You're just making, all you're doing is just making money on these campaigns, right? Once you hit those goals, right, you're good. And I think authors in particular are missing a very key component. Like, you're not going to win awards on Kickstarter. Like, that's not there, but you can get movie deals. You can get those deals because now a studio company can look at your numbers directly and say, there's something here.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened. It's happened in comics. It's not represented people suddenly get representation. Boom, like that. You know what I mean? And it so the game's changing. I'm like if agents are in an interesting crossroads, I think, right now, because I think the role of the agent is about to go for most people to be a serious change, because the big five are now the big four. Eventually, they're going to become the big three. Eventually, they're going to become the big two. Maybe this gets stay at three. But those big, giant traditional deals are going to be for a very, very select handful of people, right? If you're an agent, like what you're essentially making your money off of is saying, I can get you to the top of the slush pile. I mean, when you sit there and break it down, that's what the agent does. If there's only three slush piles, what are you I
Yeah.
think I think the role of the agent is going to have to evolve. And I think agents can be great teachers. I think agents can also, I mean, there's definitely a use for them in the indie scene for sure. I mean, I think I can see that as well. Um, but I think agents as we know it in the next 5 years is going to completely evolve. You know what I mean? And I don't, to such an extent that I actually think like it's more important for me as a creative to build my audience more so than it is to get an agent right now.
And
And
to
that,
own your work.
yeah, yeah, it's far more important because again, the last the last reason why I think it's actually possible for an author to make $1 million is this: intellectual property is the biggest. It's still the biggest form of revenue on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's still the biggest There's still the biggest amount of possibilities with that kind of revenue. It's just about how you want to use it, is how you want to take your platform and use it. You see it when you go down to a billboard. You see it when you see it when you go and do things like that. You see that these ideas that someone has come up with sell over and over and over and over again. The really smart creatives have figured out ways to take their concept and market it or put it on as many different platforms as possible. This is why
Mm-hmm.
audiobooks are big. This is why hardcovers are big. This is why the more ways you have to sell a product, the bigger the chances you have of making money doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. But the ownership of your intellectual property is the big one. And
Mm,
that I think was the biggest factor in me really leaning more toward being an indie author is that, well, if I've got to spend all this time pitching an agent who is most likely going to tell me my work is shit, why don't I just do the work myself and saving up some money or and finding the best deal or whatnot on a developmental editor, a copy editor and proofreader, get somebody to work up a cover, yada yada yada. I do all this work on the front end on my own and let the market dictate what happens. And if it's a failure, if the market is indifferent to what I do, which in these cases, as we discussed, these are the first two books, and the market was quite the market was quite indifferent to my work, and that's good. That's okay because that's what happens. Nobody is LeBron James wasn't LeBron James. He didn't coming out the womb. Okay, Tom
yeah.
Brady wasn't throwing 50-yard touchdown passes out the womb. This shit takes a lot of work and a lot of reps. at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, do you want to let these outside forces dictate whether or not you're going to get to whatever promised land you've determined that promised land is? So you are the owner, and I think this is kind of like the overarching theme of what we've been talking about, and really the overarching theme of being a creator and an entrepreneur is like, we own ourselves, we own our work, and we are going to, as long as we are willing to put in the reps, the success will be there eventually, maybe. If
No,
not,
no.
if it won't be there, the struggle will.
Well, I still think you're kind of, there's a touch of a little bit of self-sabotage there. So we got to deal with that.
Self-sabotage.
A little, no, a little bit, a little bit.
I'm grandiose.
No, it's like, you have to be grandiose. You're like, if you just moderately squeak out a living, no, dude, fuck, go for it. I want that television show. I want that crappy ass movie deal. I want that video game. I want that obnoxious T-shirt that people wear at conventions. They say, hey, I have a T-shirt of a unicorn farting out rainbows because I have an advertisement kind of thing going on. It's like a bonus in my merch. Why the fuck not? Take your ideas and put them in as many different places as possible. Is I feel like, again, it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, I got a novel. Okay, that's cool. Can I make a game out of it? Can I make a movie out of it? Can I make a television show out of it? Can I make an obnoxious copy cup out of it? Can I have a giant ass billboard that's entertaining that people will laugh at? Like, there's so many ways we could look at our work. I think the biggest argument against traditional publishing is okay, I give you all these rights. How are you compensating me for this loss of income?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing, right? Like there's so much potential. Again, look at the idea just as a brand, Coca-Cola. Go down the street, see a Coke bottle. You know what that is. You know what the cap looks like. Santa Claus, as we know it, is a Coca-Cola marketing scheme, folks. That's what that, like, people just like to look at that Santa. It's Coke. Coke secretly owns that guy. That guy is he's a Coke dip boy.
The modern Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Doing, man.
yeah. No, that's all. No, it is. So look, I think about how powerful that is. Yeah. Right. Think about how powerful that fucking is.
We made Santa.
That's right. They can actually say that. We made that guy. He's ours. And everybody's like, no, but again, that's how powerful that, like, again, that's billboards, television, radio. They took their property, their logo, and they plastered it in as many different platforms as they possibly could, to the point that it cost you money to use it now. Right? That is insane. Mm-hmm. But it's just as possible to do that as a writer with their own novels, your books. And again, I mentioned this, you advertise a book for 90 days. That's coming on shows like this, yes. But it's also like, how can I make my stuff as obnoxious as possible that people have no choice but to look at my crap? Right? How can I get people's attention? Because if I can figure out how to do that, then I'm going to find my audience. And then when I find my audience, I will cater to them via newsletter, via blog, via a podcast. Hi, how you doing? Right? So, and if I can figure out a way to do that, and I'm consistently putting myself out there, again, that's the grind part. Every day you come out here, like I do a podcast like this for like 4 or 5 days a week. That's a grind. That is a grind, but it's also, I wouldn't do it unless I loved it, right? That's another big part of it too. But the idea is then what happens is as you keep constantly grind, you hit a tipping point. And once you hit those tipping points, suddenly that number that was here is now here. The number that was there is now here. And suddenly you're Taylor Swift and you can't take a shit, right? That's how, right? It's possible. Yeah. It's possible. I don't like yes, when I mentioned going in the first couple of times, it's like getting your feet wet. It's like, yes. But at the same time, what you should be doing is when you get to your next release, okay, how can I get people to call back on these 2 books as I'm getting ready to release the next book? Because then I'm like, okay, now instead of 1 source of revenue I'm trying to promote, I got 3 possibly coming my way during this time. Right? When I wrote the sequel to Alice, now I haven't released physical copies of these books that I'm hoping to do this year. But when I release the physical copy of Alice 0 and Alice 1, it's also going to up my digital sales. Now I'm going to try some things with the physicals that I didn't do with the digitals, like going wide and advertising it in a very different way than what they are suggesting I do with Amazon. Like I may not have Amazon as the primary goal. What I may have as the primary goal is, okay, I don't really care how I do it. I just care about getting my books out there. And I'll take the advice I've learned doing the show and seeing if I can create more of a sales thing for my books. You know what I mean? So, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not necessarily going to do what everybody else is doing either, because what I want to do is I want to succeed at my platforms so that my properties become worth more money, so that I have more leverage when I deal with people that want to use them. So because, right? And I'm thinking like that. I'm thinking whether the books are products of my ideas. There's more money than just the books, but my first goal then is how can I call it better attention on my products, on my books, on my podcast? How can I scale the success? That's the deal, right? So, yeah, man, go bigger. Get the like if you got the obnoxious freaking like a television show you really want to do, want to be the most like the most obnoxious show that I ever enjoyed watching is a show called VIP. It was Pamela Anderson's like spy show. It was bad on purpose, but it was glorious. It was just glorious. They knew what they had, they knew what they were, and they had fun with it. And it was a successful show that died for the dumbest of all reasons and went over budget. That was what killed it. It was not ratings. It was just they spent themselves out of business. So you got to live there, right? So, but that show is dumb. Someone made that because they thought it would work, and it did. I want to have my own stupid show. If I do have a show, it's going to be one of the most absurdly dumb things that you're just going to laugh at looking at, because that's what I want. I don't need to be like I don't need to be that guy that takes himself seriously. I'm just going to be that guy. It's like, this was fun to do. That's why I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great to have I like to have the lofty goals and I who wouldn't argue against huge success? Well, I mean, we kind of were arguing
Well, no.
making the case against
We
it.
argued
But,
against fame.
there is a cost.
Yeah.
I will say though, first and foremost, I'm a storyteller, and I like writing. I like playing with imaginary friends and introducing them to the world. And you know what? When I found out that Paulo Coelho, who wrote one of my favorite books of all time, The Alchemist, when I found out that he had only sold like 2 copies at one bookshop at first, I'm like, okay, everybody goes through it. Edgar Allan Poe didn't realize how much of a success how much of a legend he would end up being. He never he never fucking realized that. Homie sold less than 200 books while he was alive, and he died. He was not much older than us when he died. And now he's got freaking literary societies named after him that he's taught in schools. That's some huge legacy. And so there's a part of me that's almost, and when I say I'm grandiose, but there's still that kind of self-sabotage mentality. It's like, what would you rather have? It's like, and I hate dealing in binaries because I think humans are more complicated than that. But what would you rather have if you only had to choose one? Moderate success as a strictly storytelling, writing books. As an author, moderate success, if that, and you have this legacy beyond your death. You inspire somebody with your work who ends up going to become like the next Bryan Sanderson or Tom Clancy, and then you end up with a literary society named after you, and you're taught in schools, but you have no fucking idea while you're alive. This is next century, 2 centuries down the road, right? Or you have mega success while you are alive. You got the fucking yachts and the 3 homes. You got the villa in Switzerland, and you're living it up, baby. You got the Netflix deals until you're age 80. You're like Stan Lee, writing yourself into the Marvel universe. But you know, those movies, they're fun popcorn movies, and they're not necessarily classics. You know, forgettable, not Scarface level. So what would you choose? And I don't know. It's like part of me leans more toward like that legacy that's beyond the one that, you know, beyond my life on the planet. So I don't know.
So if I had to choose on between those two, I'd actually would choose the latter, and here's why. I actually have no. I no.
There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think
No,
there's a
no,
right or
no,
wrong answer.
no, no. I no. Because okay, partly because I'm a selfish prick and I want to get something out of it. I
Shit,
right,
yeah,
right,
dude.
right.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but I think what you're talking about there is immortality, which is a wonderful concept in theory. But I kind of think about this like this, and this is the other aspect of it. By and large, I think one of the greatest gifts we have as human beings is we have the ability to forget shit. Like we just have that ability,
Yeah.
and it's not entirely a bad thing, right? I have good qualities. I have bad qualities.
Me
Okay,
too.
right.
Yeah.
If I become famous, all my bad shit's gonna come up to the surface. Do I necessarily want that? No. Now, is it entirely possible that if I'm a famous person that all this stuff will come up? Yes. But see, I will have this. I will have at least a little bit of peace of mind with the fact that okay, I can kind of do my own thing and I'm free. What I want, and this is I think the difference with me than most people. I see this as a way to freedom, not necessarily as freedom, massive success or as legacy. I don't care about like I can't control that,
Yeah.
but I can control the fact that I'm in a nice place having a wonderful conversation with a really cool human being right now. And I can't really think of too many other better ways to spend my time. And when you get right down to it in the end of the day, I want the freedom to enjoy the little things in life that make it worthwhile to do.
Boom. Yes.
Right? That's
Amen, man.
that's what I want. But
Yeah.
that does require a degree of success.
Yeah.
Now, not when I'm dead, now. Right? So I don't care about when I'm dead. And this sounds like a very, very, very selfish, but I don't care. I'm not gonna be here. I'm not gonna
You'll
be here.
remember you'll remember the afterlife the same way you remember the revolution of 1776.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
won't.
Yeah. So I don't care.
Yeah.
And this and it, right, I don't have this grandiose like look, I've made my peace. One day I'm gonna die, and by and large, other than the people that love me are going to like no one's gonna remember who I am. I'm good with that. I am very good with that, right? That is
Yeah.
most people in this life. And honestly, it's not a bad thing. Legacy, the true legacy we leave is the world we again, and we may necessarily know what we did, but it's how we made people feel when we were alive. That's
Yeah.
it. That's our true legacy, right? Authors have the ability to touch lives long after they've interacted with people because of the books they've written and the stories they've told. When you
Yeah.
get right down to it, right? When you get right down to it, like I said, I have like 10 rules of success. Here's rule 4. The rest is rain. The rain's gonna fall wherever it damn well pleases, and I have no say over that.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can do, my job, and this is how I look at success, this is how I look at freedom, this is look at all this stuff. My job is to do the best I can to put myself in the best places possible to succeed. That's it. So I think anything is absolutely possible where you can go. But to get to those things, it's like, okay, you want a television deal? Then the real solution is to build an audience. How do I do that? Newsletters, shows like this, interactions, make contact and good solid impact with people. And eventually trust that that's going to carry to the right places at the right time. But also accepting the fact that even doing that, people may never ever read my work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the paradox. Is life's not fair, right? I have 6 books out there. You know what? They're epic poetry, which means that a lot of people are going to touch my stuff. 5 of the 6 of them are that. I have 1 novel so far. Now, by the end of this year, I'm hoping to have 2 novels, a novella, and poetry. Well, the thing about me is I've kind of gone this really off the beaten trail because no one does this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side is if I do hit a home run with one of those, it's going to be a grand slam across the board because no one else is doing this, right? I'll get there first. So it's kind of one of those situations where I realize recognizing all these things, I'm taking what I call as a calculated risk that I'm going to stand out on my own and create my own kind of brand styles and stories that people will fall in love with when they read them. Right? That's my gamble. And doing everything. My job then is to call attention to those things once I've created them, and then
And for
trust
people, yeah, and for people listening to Josh and me, please remember he said calculated risk, and that cannot be understated. Calculated plan risk. You get no reward if you don't make a risk. But you don't just go and bet everything on black when you don't know where your next meal is, where you might not be sure where your next meal is going to come from. It's all about that calculated risk, and I think that I don't know. Do you? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like to me, it's all about the calculated risk.
I think there's some. I think it's a little bit of both. To be honest with you, you have to be willing to truly succeed in this life. You have to be okay with losing it all.
Mm.
You have to be okay with it because it's look. I think one of my favorite success stories of all time is Colonel Sanders. Right? He was 64 years old when he became a billionaire.
He would shit the bed if you found out his food was getting sold with Taco Bell, by the
Well,
way.
well, maybe, but that boy took risk after risk. Like he's a lesson in perseverance because he took so many different risks and it never paid off for him. So finally, he was down to his last $25. Now back then, that was a lot of money, but it wasn't that much money. You know, what he said, "Fuck it, I'm just going to write it." And there's something to that, right? There is something to that whole concept. This idea that there is you have to have one of my favorite plays in poker is going all in.
Oh
Right?
wow.
It's one of my favorite.
That's shocking to hear, seeing as how you just were talking about calculated
No,
risk.
but it is a calculated, but it is a calculated risk. Depending on like people think that okay in no limit hold'em, right? In no limit hold'em, it's actually a powerful play because what you've done is you're in. That means if you make that decision, you're pretty confident in your hand. Chances are, there's no such thing as an unbeatable hand.
Mm-hmm.
But since the whole objective of poker of hold'em is to basically bullshit your way to telling people that you have a good hand, you're giving information away. You're giving information when you go all in that you have a good hand. Otherwise, why the hell would you go all in unless you're an idiot, right? Unless you're an idiot, right? Yeah. It's a powerful strategy. And people forget how powerful that is because if you're that committed to something, is the guy with more gonna be as game as you? Maybe not, right? Maybe not so much.
Mm-hmm.
There's some. It's not. There is a little bit of. You have to look at what you have. If you just say you want more, that means somewhere along the poker game, you're gonna have to give up what you have to get it. That's just the way it is. So that is true. Now the question is, so the quote unquote calculated risk inevitably means sooner or later you're going to have to be willing to risk it all. It's part of the game. Now the question is, and you have to accept the fact that when you take that risk, that you might get knocked on your ass hard. But on the other hand, if you don't take that risk, you stay exactly where you are.
Stasis. And some people are glad with that. Some people are happy with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be honest with yourself. Like I said, when I interviewed that metal band, they were honest. They said, you know what? We know the work it takes to get to the really, really big level,
Yeah.
but we don't necessarily want to go to that level. And that's fair because this is why you got, like, if you're happy where you're at, there's nothing wrong with that. But be honest where you're at. I'm not. That's why I'm willing to take those risks and go all in because why not? I don't lose anything doing that. Right?
So, yeah. Well,
Right?
I'm curious now because for the past 4 months. So now we're in the beginning of May. So yeah, the first 4 months. Um, so backing up, my previous career, I was a top 40 radio DJ. We talked about this last night. I'm 46. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be playing fucking Justin Bieber and Billie Eilish for the rest, for the rest of my career. And I like Justin Bieber and Billie Eilish. Okay, I like
Yeah.
taking color.
There's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
liking
yeah,
the beep,
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
There's nothing
and
wrong with
I
liking the
like
beep.
taking Color 10 and giving away free, free concert tickets and movie and whatnot. I like that. Okay, I just didn't see myself doing that for the rest of my career, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are people who want to do that, and
Yeah.
I found that there's more to what I want to do with all the other things that I was also all my other tasks with my previous career led me to believe that there's more that I have to offer the world. And so I felt, my wife and I, we were in a position where we didn't have to, I didn't have to stay with my employer, and they made it very easy for me by offering me a deal that I could refuse, and I refused it. And so it was one of those things where and I told my wife, I think the writing is on the wall. I think the writing is on the wall. And sure enough, I was 1000% fucking correct that the writing was on the wall. And I'm like, yeah. And I think they were betting on me. I think they were betting on me being the good little bitch and saying, yeah, okay, I'll take this deal. And and I'm serious. I laughed at my supervisor when the deal was proposed, and this is someone who I actually respect quite a bit, and I'm like, yeah, no, these terms are
Mhm.
unacceptable, and I walked out of her office. And this is somebody who I've known for a long time,
Oh,
who I
sure.
have a great relationship with, and that was how offensive it was. And so now I'm wondering, because even though I saw the writing on the wall and we were prepared, um, I thought that it was a calculated risk, but now hearing what you were talking about, oh, there goes my light. Hearing what we were talking about, it's got me thinking that maybe I threw the chips all down on the table, and maybe I won the game of poker, and I'm just not seeing the rewards yet. Who knows?
Well, it's about what you want, what serves
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah.
Look. I mean, so there's a bunch of ways to look at that. Like, obviously, they didn't respect you to what you deserved because they gave you a shit deal. That's
Yeah.
not someone I want to work with long term.
Right.
Anyway, first off, that's a recipe for disaster down the road. You're gonna resent doing that job now because you're not getting what you feel you're worth. And now you're not going to make the same concentrated effort. There's a whole concept about work being worship. And what that means is the attitude and way you carry yourself going off and doing it, right, is going to impact your day-to-day life, and it does. It's why it's very careful. It's one of the reasons why I got out of my last job. It wasn't because I thought um I had run my course and I was ready to leave. And that was going to seep into everything else I did at sooner or later. So you made the correct move walking away. So I guess the question then becomes, whatever your current path is, are you happy? Are you all in on your current path? Because again, your job is not necessarily to succeed or to fail. You don't necessarily have full control over those things.
Mm-hmm.
Your job is, are you all in? Are you saying, what do I really want to achieve? What am I doing to achieve those things? even if it's a little at a time every single day.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
your job. There's nothing else. There's literally nothing else. The rest of it is. So to answer, I think you did win. You won the little you won the moral victory already. Now whether you get the financial or no, you did. No, I don't underestimate how valuable that is.
Yeah.
Your dignity and your self-respect are the only two damn things in this world that
Yeah.
you legitimately own. Everything else comes and goes. Those are the only two things you have that you can give away. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't. You didn't. That's valuable. That's more valuable than you realize, right? So that's important because when you go to whatever is next, you still have those. You'll be able to go in with a clear conscience. And I do not underestimate how valuable that really is.
Yeah, well, and I think also it goes to the fact that all we have, and we've been talking about death a lot, and it's not to be morbid, but I mean, look,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, all we have is time. The
Mm-hmm.
money will always be there, whether or not it's in the first few months of Obviously, there hasn't been very much, but again, this is how why I think it was a calculated risk was because we were in a position where we can do this. We're dual income
Oh yeah.
family. So yeah, we were positioned to where I didn't have to do this, and I didn't have to, But at the end of the day, all we have is time. The money will be there eventually. I've made a little bit. I made my first $1,000 check, which was a big ego boost, right? It was a big ego boost because
Yeah.
now it's like, well, I know I can do this shit, and I know that there are people that are willing to pay me, and so now what? Now what's the next level? How do I get more of these clients? You're talking about wanting to get more of these clients as well, and you've got your number, and now I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to figure out, I might not make what I made last year or the year before, which were decent years, and so what is that? If I can somehow figure out how to monetize my voice narration with my copywriting, because that's what I also do, and my event hosting, and eventually if I end up building my podcast audience, how do I get the downloads to where maybe, I don't know, I can start selling a few sponsorships, and then it's building that platform and that audience and my own community. It goes to
Mm-hmm.
the was it Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans, and you figure out how to make a living, and it doesn't have to be one of those things where you're beholden to some outside force like a corporation that needs a serious kick in the balls.
but see that ultimately comes down to
Yeah.
two things: your sense of worth and your sense of belief.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Pretty
Freelancing
much.
is freelancing at the end of the day. Actually, I think the creative life at the end of the day is really about those two things. What do you feel you're worth, and what are you willing to fight for to get it?
Mm-hmm.
Some of it's just also understanding what is possible, and that is more and less, in some, depending on how you look at it, every single day. So it's just but again, it's recognizing the doors for what they are, and then just figuring out a way to calculate it. My challenge right now is to get people's attention for my advertising services. That's my
Mm-hmm.
challenge. That's my challenge. How do I do that? Well, one of the easiest ways is clients, because the more commercials I make, the more people can see my work. The more people can see my work, the more people are going to want to do something similar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see it. That's how I play it. That's how it works. It's like I say, it's not rocket science. It's really not. It's just building your audience, like building it up, doing your thing, and going. I have a voice. I probably should do more voice work, although um, I'm actually going to see if I can figure out a way to trademark my voice before I actually really get into that. With the way AI is kind of going, I think that's actually a valuable thing for creatives. Because if someone wants to use your voice, then they have to pay you. If you can get
Yeah.
that right, that actually I think is a very valuable tool.
Are you on
And
Voice 123?
not yet.
Oh man, you got to do it, and don't get the free one. Don't cheap out.
Okay.
Yeah, save up for the paid service. They have several tiers. They have a baller one. Ooh man, it's expensive. It's I think it's 2,000 if I'm not mistaken. It's not cheap, but yeah. But you're if you do the free one, you're competing with way too many people, and you're not going to get it nearly as many invites. But yeah, no,
Okay,
do it,
pay
man.
to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I might. Like, it's just one of those situations, right? I just realized, like, for me, like, my goal has been for the longest time to build my audience to a certain point. I'm at the point now, right? I get a decent download list per month. So now my goal is to I have enough to justify small sponsors. So that's my goal. That is a goal there. It's not the big goal. The big goal right now is to get my service running. That's going to be the next 6 months, I figure. But once the service is really running and going, because Lord knows there's so many creatives that need to know how to advertise their work, it's a very valuable service that I'm offering, I think. So get that really rolling, and then once that's really rolling, invest in some of the other things I want to keep doing, and then again, it's about multiple income streams, which is very possible as a creative. It's very, very possible. And again, there's I kind of like, I have a personal little goal. There's a writing conference here called When Words Collide. When we go back to physical shows up here in 2023, what I'm going to be doing is when I show up to the show, my topic's going to be freelancing, and one of the things that says the biggest lie we tell ourselves is that there's no money in writing. Nothing could be further from the truth. And so it's right, and right, and that's the deal. And that's kind of a personal goal. But like I said, I've hit that point now where I need to work a part-time job. I might have to flip burgers at Wendy's for 6 months. I don't care, right? Because again, my goal's in sight, and doing something like that to get to that goal, right? Whatever.
Have you ever worked at a fast food restaurant?
Yes, I have.
I worked at McDonald's all through high school. It
Taco
was fun.
Bell.
Taco Bell. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry about the Taco Bell dig.
No, you can give me the Taco Bell dip. I could tell you some horror stories that I won't talk about on the air,
Yeah,
because
no. I could tell you some horror stories about Mickey
oh, I know.
D's,
No,
and I
no.
won't. Oh, that's
Fast food
great.
rest. I mentioned this because I actually had an author. I used to be a manager at McDonald's, and we both acknowledge this. There's a bell curve to everything, and we
Yeah.
just leave it at that, folks. We'll just leave it at that.
That's great, dude.
It's true.
Well, and
You work,
look, man.
look, you worked at your radio station. I'm gonna bet my ass to $1 and then we're gonna have to wrap up soon because I gotta get ready for my next client. But
Sure,
I'm gonna bet my ass to $1 that you walked in, you saw some people like, these people are fucking awesome. I love working with them. You're gonna see some people that, hey, they're solid, they're cool. I mean, they're here, they're valuable. And then there are some people above you, some people below you. You're like, how did you find your way here? How did this happen? Why are you here? And then what you realize, and this is something I realized very early on. This is what I realized, is that the operation's too big. So those really top people, you hope and pray you find those people, those solid people. You're happy to have them. And every once in a while, because you just realize it's such a big operation, you realize that the pipeline has to keep going. The pipe has to work. Now, if there are parts of the pipe that are using bubble gum and duct tape to keep the thing going, you're not asking those questions anymore. All you care about is that the pipe is working, because it's too big to watch.
It's that 90-10 rule we were talking about yesterday. 90% of everybody is decent, good people, and we're all doing the best we can. And we're, for the most part, we're making the world better place than it was when we first got here. And the other 10, well,
Well, I guess here's the thing. Like, how do I put this delicately? There are just some people who are just challenged. You know what I mean? I'm not. And to be fair, there are environments we are all challenged in. It doesn't matter who we are. We're just in those places. Some people don't know it though, and those are the people you're like, how? Like, how?
How did you wake up and tie your shoes to leave the house this morning?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's it. Like there is that, and you're just in that environment, and you're looking at that, and you're like, I don't understand. I just don't. And then you realize, and then a former union head, a buddy of mine at that, where he goes, he sometimes went to me, sometimes Josh, why ask why? Sometimes it's great advice not to why ask why,
Yeah.
because the answer will hurt even more than the question does. Sometimes. Right. And
Oh
you
man.
saw that, and you saw that at the radio station. I'm sure you saw that. You were in there, and it was like, and then
Yeah, man.
it's a bell curve. There's a lot of bell curve out in this world, folks. There really, really is. Right.
Very
So,
true.
yeah. But anyway, Freddie, this was, I think, a better conversation than our last one. What do you think?
Well, technically speaking, yes. I enjoyed getting to talk with you last night and today, and yeah.
Yeah, I feel better about this one because I fully heard you the whole time. And it was pretty cool. The only thing, if you don't mind me preaching to the choir, just preaching to you a little bit before we walk.
Do it,
Don't.
my brother.
Okay.
Do it for the congregation without
That's right.
hesitation.
All right. And this is the thing. So you're good. You got a great voice. You're charming. You're persuasive.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and you're a great storyteller, right?
Thank
Believe that just a little bit more. That like that, and the reason I say that is because there's our talk and our conversation and everything like that. You're a big challenge. Like you have the personality that once people see you, people are going to root for you. You have it. You got the experience being a DJ. I'm sure you definitely have felt it. Um, Take advantage of the skills you have, and you're going to get to where you want to be faster. Believe it, and it will happen. As dumb as that sounds, maybe as simplistic as that sounds, right? That you have the tools, right? You have the confidence when you're on the air to speak. Just, I think the big challenge you have is getting people to call attention, how to get people to call attention to you, if that makes sense.
It's selling myself. I am not my best advocate.
Yes.
And I need to be my best advocate. I think we all, I think as authors, and I think as anyone who's in the creative field, there are not very many of us, if I had to make an assumption, particularly with people who write books. It's an introverted kind of work. So naturally, we're not going to be inclined to be like, "Hey, everybody, look at me." So yeah, no, you're 1000% correct. And even as a radio personality, I was in a cooped up box for all those years, talking into a microphone, not knowing who was listening, how many people were listening. Will anybody call in? Will anybody want to talk to me? What do people think? Obviously, for me to be at the same radio station for 16 years, I was obviously
Good at it.
good enough. So,
You're good at it.
I'm obviously very good at it, because you don't have a 16-year run with a legendary Marconi, 2-time Marconi Award winning radio station if you suck donkey balls.
That's right. So I guess I've been recommending this to a lot of authors, and this might seem like the dumbest piece of advice. Watch pro wrestling, and in particular, see, my favorite era of pro wrestling is the one when I was a kid, and that was the 1980s pro wrestling era. But the reason why my favorite stuff, they would do interviews on the show for their house shows, right?
Yeah.
I'm a huge Randy Savage fan.
Oh man.
Right? Everybody loves the Macho Man that knows who the Macho Man is. But here's the thing. He is probably the best lesson in marketing you will ever see. He knew who he was. He knew who he wasn't. And he just portrayed who he was. My favorite promo of all time is the one where it's like, the cream will always rise to the top, brother. And he shows up with these coffee creamers, and he's like, he actually put one on top of his head. He kind of did like a little surf motion with what it was like. It was the dumbest. Yeah, that one is one of the dumbest ones. And like just it's right after WrestleMania 3, he lost to Ricky Steamboat, and this is how I say, I still remember that shit, right? He's rising. It's like the cream will always rise to the top. And he's in a bad position because he just lost his title and kind of felt a little vulnerable. But he shows up with these stupid coffee creamers. It's the most entertaining thing I've ever seen on the air. You can look that up on YouTube. You can find that. But the thing is, wrestling is the dumbest thing ever because it's about grown men and women in tights beating each other up, kind of for real, kind of not. It's choreographed. So super athletic. We'll give them all the credit in the world, but it's choreographed. It's not a real fight. Flip side, they believe in their characters, and thus they believe in themselves. The best ones, the real best ones, the ones that really made it, that's the whole of their secret. It's nothing else. And advertising, when you get right down to it, and creative and storytelling in general, establish a connection to the audience, be entertaining and fun, make them feel something or think something or question something, form that connection. Because once you have that connection, they will follow you. You're a stirred storyteller and you're not afraid to voice it. Voice it. You know what I mean? And then have some fun with it.
Oh, yeah.
Brother.
Nah, man. You know, the one I remember is when he was, Elizabeth, I love you.
Oh, the end of the story. The end of the story, which is really, really good. Yeah. Too. No. He was literally the man. Like, I don't think he even realized how cool he was. But I say this to authors as well. It's the best selling and marketing you'll ever get. It's like, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's like, yes, it is the dumbest thing you'll ever see. At the same time, he believed in himself. He projected himself in such a way that people connected to him.
Yeah.
And that's your job.
Solid advice.
Yeah.
Watch it objectively without judging. You know, without judging what you're seeing. Dude, I would even take it a step further. Don't just watch Macho Man. Watch adorable Adrian Adonis.
Oh no, that guy was a genius. That guy was ahead of his time.
Was he not? And,
yeah, he was totally.
Brother Love.
No. Brother Love, not so much. Brother Love was good, but no. If you want like adorable Adrian Adonis is a good one. Jake the Snake Roberts is an amazing one too.
Yeah.
Right. There's some good like people from back in the day that really knew what they were doing. Watch them on the microphone. And here's the thing. You could tell the good wrestlers from the bad ones for one simple reason: how they talk to the audience. The ones that knew what they were doing knew how to talk to the audience. That was
Nikolai Volkov, and he sold his character so well, man.
Okay, for me, Volkov, my favorite one's WrestleMania 6, where the guy with the piano. I can't remember who he was. That was I can't remember who it was, but that is what I remember most about him. But yeah, any of those old characters were really good at what they did, you'll watch those, and it's the 80s. Today, it's the presentation's different. There are some people that can do it really well today too. I'm an AEW guy. I love Miro. Miro is one of my favorite wrestlers ever. It's like, that guy is awesome. But that all said, that's another conversation for another podcast. That all said, the moral of the story is that belief in yourself is really the key to it all. And if you're willing to put yourself out there, you're going to be ahead of 9 out of 10 people right there and then alone.
Boom.
I think we got a good conversation here, Freddie. What do you think?
I think this is a great conversation because good is the enemy of great.
That's true. Fair enough.
I don't know who said that. Otherwise, I tell you who said it.
Yeah. Good is relative.
I'll just say they say. You know.
So why don't you talk about your book real quick, and then we'll wrap it up.
So They Canceled the DJ follows the story of AC Cortez, who is a radio personality who meets who he thinks is the love of his life. But as any radio person would tell you, you never have a relationship with a listener. But he breaks the unwritten cardinal rule. He commits the cardinal sin, the atrocity of dating a listener who ends up using him to get to her music idol, the fictional character River Bronzewell. Think Justin Bieber meets Shawn Mendes, tatted up. He plays the ukulele. He's super popular. What ends up happening is his girlfriend ends up ditching him for River on stage before thousands of screaming fans. The incident goes viral, and the whole second half of the book is a plot for revenge on River and his ex. Shenanigans do ensue.
Sounds good. And where can people find you?
People can find me at the Freddy Cruz. Do you say the or the? I feel like when you say the, it makes you think two E. So thefreddycruz.com. FreddyCruz.
Well, hey, we'll go with your way. So it's like this. Did I do it right?
There you go. There you go. Oh, look at that. He's got the graphic and everything, man.
Yeah, I know. Right. Yeah.
Boom, boom.
Trained motherfucking professional right here, ladies and gentlemen. And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. We did this right this time, I swear. This is my current release. This is Alice 1. It's Alice in Wonderland and Greek mythology mashed up together. Alice is Pandora. This is the sequel. Alice escapes her prison and chases the Queen of Hearts over the edge of the world, only to end up in the Greek underworld, where to escape, she must play croquet against Jason of the Argonauts. There, Alice and company will encounter gods, monsters, and perhaps the most terrifying thing of all, themselves. It's available now on Amazon. Finally, my last time I mentioned this earlier, I have a pretty big mouth, and I have the ability to, I think, bring out the best in people. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think so. And what I'm offering is, if you're an author or a creative and you have problems telling the people about your stuff, I will happily help you do this for you. I will create videos, audio, words, and pictures to pick your projects, your campaigns, and yourselves on a variety of different platforms. For more information, you can definitely check it out right there and then right now. I want to thank Freddy for coming on to the show. And thanks everybody for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I will see you guys next time.